Prepare yourselves. Okay, guys, we are live once again with Sense8 broadcast. We are on number 11 this week, and we're going to be going in depth into episode 10, What is Human? And once again, I'm joined by my lovely panel of Vindhya, Martin, and Jordan. And
Hello.
We're waiting on some other people that might join us, but we're going to push on through and go for it anyway. But I guess jumping right in, one of the early sequence I thought was really nice, where they had Abraham and what he said about, whenever I have a difficult decision to make, I come here, and then they have that scene of all of them like intertwining and walking through that whole museum thing, and I thought that was just like the shooting and everything and the emotion that like made you feel was really well done. What did you guys think?
I agree, because like at that point there really were, all of them in their various ways were all having their difficult moments. I mean, Wolfgang's son was about to, or at least hope she was, getting out of prison. Riley was trying to deal with the information she got from the last episode, how to handle that, and then everyone else. So I won't go into them one by one, but I just saw the way it was shot, not just in terms of where everyone was on the scene, but also on a visual level, was great as well.
Yeah, and for me, it also felt like they were walking like by each other, but they also seemed almost like they were still out of reach of each other, which is what I thought was a good way to do it. Like, as soon as you thought you were getting close to somebody, they turned that corner, they'd like disappear. So it was like their own little corner trying to deal with their own issues.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think there was to ensure there's no a bit of what that.
Oh, that was some technical difficulties.
I'm having to sign this. And can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we're good now. I can hear you fine now.
Whatever it was before that was didn't work out.
Okay, I should have made a bigger sacrifice like Jordan, but
we'll discuss methods after the show.
Yeah,
sounds
that could
good.
be a whole other podcast, dude.
So when Sun touches the pen to sign the papers to release the information that it wasn't her that was guilty of embezzlement, she is found in the same place as the other Sense8, so it basically shows that they all have a tough decision to make, hence they're at that place. For example, Carla, with getting married to Rajan or not, Will had a tough decision as well, Sun, so each of them was in that point in their lives that they all had a tough decision to make. And it was filmed beautifully. I agree with you, Evan. It was done really well.
And then we also see the the first meaningful interaction between Will and Wolfgang, where they're at the museum, and there's that quote on there that says, "Is the Holocaust an aberration or a reflection of who we really are?" And I thought that was actually really profound.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, Wolfgang hears the celebrations going on. He's like, "What? Why is it so noisy where you are?" He's like, "Oh, Independence Day." And he's like, "Oh, what's best in life, huh?" And Will's like, "Huh? I don't understand what you're saying," And he's like, And he's like, "No, you wouldn't." And he just like storms off, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Very
and
rude.
I think it was at the end of the scene that Sun mentions, "I want to believe that the past is done with us the moment we're done with it."
Yeah, it's when she's signing the document.
So it has
she
to do
signs
with the
it,
Holocaust story. Yeah.
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 That's a good point. It definitely ties into the feeling that a lot of people have. Like, sure, it's in the past, but they're still living it and feeling it every day in the present.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that was well done. And then also, just to add to that thing about how Will didn't get the Conan reference, and I think it dawned on Wolfgang then that what he shares with Felix is unlike anything he has with anyone else, because obviously only Felix would understand that. And I think the weight of the loss or what he's going through with Felix that was another way that it kind of reared its ugly head. That's why he just had to storm off. He's like, okay, I can't deal with this right now.
Exactly.
I thought first, did anyone think that for a second Wolfgang might have punched Will in the face when he made that quote? Because it really felt like going, dude, what are you talking about?
I mean, after Will said, "What are you talking about?" and he was like giving him that Wolfgang.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to say something along the lines of "f you" or give him a finger or so, like reach out. I didn't think a punch was coming. I thought he was going to be like, "Oh, you bastard!" Like,
or whatever they say in German.
Why the hell am I talking to you? Like, so something like that. Also, greetings to Daniela.
Yes,
Hi.
welcome back.
Oh,
Can you
hello.
hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, good. How are you?
Good, how are
Doing
you?
well.
Good, thanks.
Nice to meet you.
Yourself?
Good. I see a new face over here. What's your name?
Me?
Yeah?
That's you, Jordan.
Yeah, I'm Jordan, and I'm not really a new face. I've been on a couple times before, but it's good to meet you, Daniela.
Where are you from?
I live right outside Philly in the States.
Nice, in the States. Good. Nice to meet you. I'm from Costa Rica. I don't know if these guys
Nice.
have told you already.
No, I didn't know, but it's nice. I've been to Costa Rica before. It's very beautiful.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Where have you been?
I honestly don't remember. It was actually years ago on a family vacation.
Oh.
Maybe you had a little too many tequila squared to keep track, right?
I was too young at the time to drink them legally, and let's leave it at that.
It's on holiday, guys. Let's remember that. And this is live. Sorry, don't want to incriminate ourselves here.
Yeah.
That's true. We can move on.
Yes, moving on.
Where were we? Okay. And then also there's that whole sequence between Will and Jonas in the is that a museum that they were in or wherever they were?
I think it was an art museum or some sort.
Kind of thing, yeah.
I forgot. I remember seeing the name of it before. I can't remember now off the top of my head the name of the museum. There's
just that whole sequence. There was a lot of meaningful interaction going on throughout the whole entire thing. So there's actually a lot to dig into here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the main thing was like the question was like when Will was asking Jonas something, I was like something like, "Are we human? Are we different than humans?" And then Jonas is asking like, "Really, what is human?" And saying that those who are Sense8 are more human or more connected because of their ability, which I kind of understood. But and also it's just in that question, what is human? I mean, that's the thing, because it's like going, and this from my personal point of view, how there's really nothing that defines the human being, nothing that defines what is average or normal, because to me, everyone is unique, everyone is different in their own certain ways, for good or for bad. I mean, look at all of us. All different places, different backgrounds, different beliefs, and here we are, and we're all working together in this case for the broadcast.
Mm-hmm. One of the first ones that stuck out to me was go ahead.
Jonas explains.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, I was just going to mention the one you were going to mention. He mentioned something about humans being emotionally disconnected from
Tech gods, why are you against us today?
These killers ever.
I know, it's like we already sacrificed the USB.
Exactly.
Talking about the
Okay, wait.
Oh no, the computer is still being.
Hello?
She's
Yes.
I think she's out.
Okay. Excuse that, everybody, but like one of the quotes that stuck out with me from Jonas is when he was saying, when he talked about, he was born in India, then he was raised English, but he also moved to New York when he was 20 or so, and then he was saying how he envies people their clear-cut allegiances. I thought that was a really profound quote as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it can be hard, like just from going from like where Jonas was coming from, and then other people in that situation, and then people who just in general have been raised a certain way, but their beliefs go another, and that can be hard when you raised a certain way, but you feel a different path. You feel that it's either you feel as strong about it as how you were raised, or you feel stronger about that. And it can be hard, and it just is from my own personal experience, just in terms of beliefs, how they differ from what I was raised in with my family.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I'm sacrificing the bunny, guys. So hopefully you can hear me now.
And another interesting thing that also came about was when Jonas was talking about the father of his cluster was telling him about how as a sensei you were not able to experience births and deaths and from the beginning of life and stuff, but at the same time we see that happen later in the episode. So it kind of makes me wonder how full of shit his father was, or the father of his cluster, if he was not telling him accurately what's possible,
Well, yeah, like each person has different views. The father of
I
Genesis
think
clutter.
he even mentions that the father's full of crap.
Yeah, the father felt one way. Doesn't mean he was right, but and he saw it one way. Jonas sees it another. So another thing in terms of allegiances and beliefs.
Yeah. And I think that also ties into Joey Pants' speech about how his father wanted him to be an electrician. That was a real nice little thing. And then about, I kept shocking myself. I couldn't do it. And then when he decided to become a cop, his dad was like, I don't even know who you are. It's kind of that same experience.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then there was the line Jonas said how human beings are so disconnected from one another that what made him an effective killer for sensates in general.
Yeah.
Which kind of does fit. I mean, because so many people. I'm not saying this applies to everyone, but so many people are wrapped up in their own things and their own lives, or staring down at their phones so much that they don't see the people walking around them, that they don't connect. They don't empathize. They don't try to talk with another person, whether it be like we are doing now or simply face to face.
Yeah. That's definitely kind of an irony, considering we're using that technology to talk to each other now, but at the same time, you're right as far as how it's being used,
Yeah, but like the way we're doing it now, this really isn't like a disconnect. We're not all
engaged.
in our little singular worlds. We're all together and hopefully having a good time without any more tech interruptions. Please, almighty USB and Wi-Fi signals. Have pity on the five of us now. Amen.
Jordan, you better sacrifice some stuff for me.
I'll try to see what I have at hand. But the buddy seems to be helping.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was thinking, when he was talking about the most successful killers, is he talking about the Sense8 or humans?
Humans.
Human race, with their being disconnected from one another.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Where the Sense8s are all about connection and unity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And therefore making it harder to kill somebody if you can experience them, and that way you're not going to be as likely to pull the trigger,
Yeah.
Exactly. Trying to think of what the next thing was. You have. I'm trying to remember which one is the next scene, but I know in my head I have
Oh,
like
well,
out of
actually,
order.
I did have another lingering question from this one, because there's another point where, Jonas is telling Will about all the secrets and things, and then, of course, Will, being the good cop he is, he goes, "Do you have a secret, Jonas?"
Yeah, and well,
So,
that kind of tied into the conversation with Yursa, which of course he didn't
yeah.
say anything.
Yeah. And so that again, I don't think we have entirely enough information at this point. But what do you guys think at this point of Jonas and whether how trustworthy he might be at this point?
Well, this is my point of view, and I apologize if this goes back to anything that was discussed regarding the discussion Riley was having with Yursa in the previous episode. But I think what happened was Jonas and Angelica, they were on Whisper's side. They were doing what Yursa said, awakening new clusters so they could capture and kill them. But then something must have changed. I don't know what, but I think that turned the two of them against Whispers, which led to them awakening the cluster, at least this current cluster, but in this case, so they could protect themselves against Whispers and what what he could possibly do to them. So I think Jonas is trustworthy. He still has his secrets, obviously, but I think at least for now, and probably for the rest of the series, will be someone that could be trustworthy, but not necessarily 100% because he still has his secrets.
Yeah, so it's like keep him close, but keep an eye on him, kind of a thing.
Exactly.
Well, that was well said. That well said.
Thank you. Thank you.
And another, I guess it wasn't really a big scene, but there was a lot of stuff to take away from it, was where Capheus and Kala kind of have their first interaction with Kala having to deal with, the stuff that's going on with Rajan and the father and all that, and then Capheus is still kind of dealing with this whole superpower issue. And then there was that whole the quote where Kala asked him, she's like, "Oh, when I was in Mumbai, it was exactly like this. They had no beds, but they had a TV as big as this." And she was like, "Well, how come that is?" And then Capheus just says, "The beds keep you in the slum, and the TV takes you out."
Exactly.
I thought that was just like one of the most profound things.
Yeah, he's got a point. It's a sense of escapism. Like, a lot of people, they need that in their lives, especially the way Capheus was living. It's probably better than most people do in Africa, I'm assuming. So, yeah, for Kala to raise that question, everyone would be thinking the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Going, why are you spending a fortune on a TV rather than a bed, So.
How about Martin or Daniela? Would you like to add anything?
Yeah,
Uh,
that the TV human value. It's like they need it for to be part of society and to don't be a part of it.
Yeah, Martin's
It's
got
like
a valid
entering.
point there.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I agree with Martin.
uh, what can I say about this? I mean, this scene between Copius and Kara was very interesting because for me,
Sorry.
hello,
Hello.
because for me it shows what our reality. Can you hear me? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Yes.
Go.
All right. It shows what this world and what it had been, we have been forced to live is like this need of having, for example, a television to get out of your reality. This that technology in its bad field, if I can say it like that, makes in our lives. It distracts us. It put our minds and worries in something that is not worth. I mean, like talking in a general way, you know.
Mhm.
And maybe that scene between Capius and the TV, it kind of shows for me, or I felt it that way, that something as simple as a TV can take you out of your, and that might be good, but it also might bad.
Yeah, I guess in that sense, it could have consequences on both ends. If you get too kind of lost in the TV or virtual reality, you might be ignoring some of the stuff that you might need to pay attention to in your actual life. So that would be interesting as well.
Especially speaking in a spiritual level, that you all know that that's what I enjoy most, because I found very important on a spiritual life. So I think that we as human beings in these ambiguous concepts, we have to be careful of what we have around us that might be distracting us from who we really are.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I
That
think
was well
it's
said.
worthwhile. Yeah. I think it's worthwhile also mentioning that Carla says to Capheus that the movie that he's watching is violent,
Uh-huh.
and then Capheus goes that life is violent, and it's because like the things he had to do, he makes that statement, but then Carla goes, she did not used to think that life was violent until now, because for her the turning point was her father-in-law almost getting killed.
Yeah.
So, and when I rewatched the season, I just go, girl, you've seen nothing yet, you know, because after this point is when she sees true violence in the form of Wolfgang, I reckon. So she's
Yeah.
at least got it in her mind that, life is
I might.
violent. She's kind of cracked it,
But
I'm in the middle of something. I'm
I definitely think it changes her mindset. Like, for
yeah,
example, I mean, we're getting a little ahead here, but for example, when she later builds the bomb for Wolfgang, like
yeah,
if she didn't have that mindset that life is violent and she didn't believe that, she probably would have not gone through with that. But I
exactly,
think
yep,
like after she finally kind of the veil was kind of lifted and the whole sunshine and rainbows were kind of taken away a little bit, and then when she realized
yeah.
that, she's like, okay, well now I have to adapt. And so I think that was a big growth for her as a character.
I
Yeah,
think her
yeah. This
perspective
is
is
the
that
scene where we find out. Yep.
And it's like it took her, like, I know I'm maybe jumping ahead a bit, but I think that's what helped her a little bit, like when she confessed to her father what exactly Papa G said to her.
Uh-huh.
And honestly, I expected her father to react with the kindness that he did, because like obviously he and his wife wanted the wedding. He wanted, because Roger's rich, and they wanted they also wanted the daughter Kala to be happy. But the father was very kind and honest with what he, in terms of telling Kala, well, you have a hard decision to make, but I understand where your feelings are at this time regarding it.
Yep.
he represents like the wise old man, no?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or the
wise old man.
Yeah. He really put it out there in like really logical terms. It's like the philosopher of the bunch there.
Exactly.
Because I don't remember the exact quote, but it was like, yeah, it's you could go on with this, or you could live your life knowing that whatever happiness you built is built on a secret. And I was like, boom, that's some deep
Yeah,
that's deep
exactly.
right there.
And those things sometimes we are not able to see it because our desires and our worries and what we want to do for to be okay with what other people think, and that's something very important to have an extra vision and a wiser vision of our reality that
Yeah.
may save our lives.
Right.
Yeah, Daniela's right. It's about, being, you know, it being clouded by circumstances that's stopping us being who we are and helping us make the decision that we need to make.
Exactly. And sometimes we do need another pair of eyes, another mind, another to speak on the issue, whatever we're facing at the time. Because sometimes our emotions and our feelings, they can't. They sometimes they can help us in terms of making a decision, but sometimes they can hinder us, and that's why you need someone to talk to see and try to sort things out, not just in your mind, but in your heart as well.
Yeah.
Just,
And
just
this whole
have-
episode, I believe, focused on exactly that, exactly what you guys are talking about, each of these characters, and it's presented in a different way for each of these characters based on who they are, if that makes sense. So, like later on, we found out in this episode how, Lido and Wolfgang expresses, how they feel when it comes to making a tough decision.
Mm.
For Wolfgang, it was like a snap decision, I reckon, with the whole Felix situation. So I'll let Evan get to that scene where, the bad guys come storming into the hospital room.
Thank you for that perfect segue there. But yeah, it's interesting too because we saw a little bit of this carryover from the last episode. But first, Wolfie is visited by the father or his uncle, technically, with all his higher level goons, and then this one is where Steiner comes in with his other people and all that, and you could just tell by then that the tension was just at a boiling point. I mean, there was no going back from that by that point. And so it brings us into, what did you guys think of the entire Wolfie sequence from the time he starts melting down the ice with the diamond? Like, what was your kind of, did you feel yourselves getting like revved up, like, oh, it's about to go down?
We have all been in that position when the situations and persons around us just, fuck them. I can't take this anymore. And he just finished them the way he knows how to finish things and how to fix them.
Yeah. You can also take that scene as like, where the ice is melting and you see the diamond. So it's like Wolfgang's character, he's like a diamond in the rough, basically, in the ice. So like throughout the season, the ice is slowly melting and we do see the diamond that he is. Okay, I'm such a remelter.
Oh, that's such a nice little packaged way to put it right there.
It fits.
With every character, that happens with every character.
Yeah.
And then what I find was interesting too, we'll get to it later, but when Wolfie is driving up, he has a cigarette. He's smoking a cigarette, which is also what Lito does later on when he gets out of the car. So I thought that connection was like really nicely done as well. But and just I guess the overall filming of the sequence, because personally the Wolfgang Lito connection is my favorite one of the entire show. So I just loved how they did it.
Oh,
Yeah.
heck yes.
Yeah, I have to admit, out of all the paired connections that we saw throughout the season, I think out of those, that one was my favorite as well, just because it just worked so well. Like, Lito helped Wolfgang with his acting, and then Wolfgang helped Lito with his fighting skills.
Yeah.
And we just showed, and then what they said to each other at the end of each little thing. Like, Lito said to Wolfgang, "Flying is what I do best." Wolfgang, "Fighting is what I do best."
Yeah. And it's
And
also
help them both.
and it's also go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's interesting too because oh no, I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
All right. That is also very important because that connection between them helped them to make very big decisions in their lives. Get out of here.
They help each other a lot.
Sorry about my cat. Ignore him.
It's all right.
So the way it starts off, it's quite good. The whole filming of it, I agree with Evan. It's like one of my favorite episodes and scenes. So when he
Oh, you're
gets,
back.
you know, oh, I'm back. See, I'm sacrificing the bunny here. Yeah, so when Steiner, starts punching Wolfgang and whatnot, I'm just like, fight back, I'm sure all of us were cheering as well. And then that's when Leto appears and he goes, what's going on? And then he notices there's a gun underneath the car and everything. And you see a bit of Wolfgang's character when he says, like, he can't act it out, and he goes, why? And he goes, because it reminds me of my father.
Yeah.
Like everyone says, it boom in the heart. You really feel for Wolfgang at that moment. I definitely did, because it shows that, from all this tough exterior, there's a really sensitive guy deep down there, and that's all. This environment has made him who he is. He's not a bad guy. He's actually a good guy that needs to be a bad guy
to survive,
especially in situations that exactly, survival of the toughest.
And also, as far as Leto goes, I remembered my point. Up to this point, we haven't really seen his quote unquote skill come into play yet. Like he had said before, I'm a liar, it's what I do. But this was actually the first time he actually was able to jump in and help anybody, like, in a significant way. So I think that was well done as well, as far as... It's funny, he's like, okay, you can't do it, oh, just, do you mind if I step in? And he's like, okay. And yeah, just how that whole thing worked out. He's like, all you needed was just a little bit of space, you're so close,
Yeah. And I would love to know how Wolfgang felt about how Leto portrayed Felix. Like he said, Felix did some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Well, at least implied stuff.
Well, that's gonna be my favorite line, though.
I was like, what the hell?
You and cocksucking Felix.
And then what the gangster...
Would you do it? And the guy goes, yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that part just was hilarious. Just with the gangster.
I know, I just died. I'm like, oh my god. Yeah, I just died in that part.
Hope Felix doesn't find out about it.
I would love to have seen Wolfgang's face. Yeah,
Yeah.
Like, what the fudge?
But and even just the out-of-body filming style that they did, like, one of my favorite single shots is where you could see Wolfgang and Steiner out in the front, and then you see both Wolfgang and Leto, and then they both do that thing where they look at each other, and there's that perfect shot while all that's going on. That's definitely like my favorite shot of the whole sequence.
Yeah.
But when the shooting started, did you guys think that Steiner might get away, or what? How did you think that would play?
No. I was like, no, that's not Wolfgang. Come on, Wolfgang.
I didn't know.
I was completely sure Wolfgang was gonna finish that shit right there.
Yeah. I was expecting like an ending, like, for lack of a better word, to the whole conflict between them. But I didn't expect bazooka to the car.
Oh, hell yes.
But it's like once I saw Wolfgang open the trunk and pull it out.
Hold on, define the trunk, Jordan. Be specific. Just say the car's trunk, please.
Define the bazooka too.
Sorry, I know I'm jumping ahead.
Jordan, when you go Wolfgang open his trunk, you gotta specify go Wolfgang open the his BMW car trunk, because we need to specify here, because people are gonna rewatch the episode going, really? We didn't see anything.
Well, no offense, Findy, but with that type of trunk, that's not something you really open. It's something you take out. Because I think it would cause him a bit of pain if he opens that trunk.
Jordan's always fun with you.
Jordan wins the internet for today, everybody.
Finally! But I was just saying, back to what we were talking about. And everyone watching can see my bright red face. So when he takes out the bazooka, I was like, hell yes. And then the expression on Steiner's face as the missile hits right to him, I was like,
what the fuck?
I wasn't expecting it, but that was just perfect.
Power.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you know, Wolfgang's not really a philosopher, but right after that, he's like nonchalantly, he's like, you know what? Sometimes in life we make a mistake. We have two choices. Either we live with it or we fix it. Yeah.
He fixed it all right.
Yeah. And then he just like calmly walks by. Okay, I'm gonna get in my car. That was just a bazooka. You know, nothing to see here.
Oh, natural.
Yeah. It's like this is how we do it in Berlin.
Exactly. And then we get to see the reverse of that, because that really was what gave Lido the inspiration or the courage to finally go down, get Daniela back, and kick Joaquin's ass with Wolfgang's help, but still.
Yeah, and we see you don't need to be.
Oh.
Jordan, we can't hear you.
Return me, because I was waiting for you.
Oh no, I was waiting for you to say something.
No, I was just saying the last thing I said was like, go down, get Daniela, kick Joaquin's ass, flower pot swung, bang bang, and a little bit of Wolfgang's help, of course.
Yeah. This showed that Lido that you don't need to be a bad boy or physically strong in able to be strong for someone else.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, like, for example, so Lido, his acting skills, you know, helped out Wolfgang in this situation. So, you don't really need to be physically strong to assist them, I guess.
The camera effects and the slow motion, it was really good.
Yes.
Yes.
It gives you a sense.
Yeah, we're like right at the moment it's like Joaquin is dragging Daniela away, and
wait.
Save it for next episode. Stop.
Before we even get to that, we missed over one key important thing: is tequila squared.
Oh yes, like
Yes.
I forgot about that one.
That's okay.
Oh yeah, you did, Jordan.
a little bit of liquid courage.
Yeah.
Which he needed.
But yeah, what did you guys think of that scene, especially what happened the night before, where he, you know, it ended on kind of a really not good note there, but then he kind of made amends.
Well, are we talking in terms of not a great scene? Are you talking about what happened when he was in that bar previously, or just his state of mind in general?
Well, when he was in it previously, and then when he comes back and he has his little kind of epiphany moment.
Well, yeah, because like it was. I think what happened with Wolfgang was, as you described it, an epiphany moment, and then he realized he needed to make things right with Alejandro and Daniela, and I think maybe that's part of the reason, in terms of him making amends, that he goes to that specific bar, not just to get himself a little bit buzzed for the showdown with Joaquin, but in order to, in a way, apologize to the bartender as well for the way he responded to his advances. And that speech he gave, like, this is a stolen kiss, but I can't remember the exact wording, but I'm sure Martin probably remembers.
Martin, do you remember that one?
Sorry, I lost you.
Yeah, but
I think it was Jordan, if I remember correctly, it was something like, "Oh, this lips belong to someone else."
Yes.
Like, this is great. Yeah.
I couldn't remember the full speech. I remember that line. I remember this is a stolen kiss, and these lips belong to someone else. And
then I think he was like, "And though your offer to do terrible things to me was effective, my heart belongs to another, and his name is Hernando."
Yes.
Yeah.
But it was just that. Although I cannot remember the wording now off the top of my head, I thought that was like a great response that he gave, great speech, and I think that was also part of him when he gave the speech. He was trying to get himself into that character, that state of mind, that where he needed to be, or at least thought he needed to be, in order to do what he planned to do.
Courage, basically.
Yeah, exactly, Daniel.
Liquid courage, yeah, and this actually ties into like all of that theme of people in this episode are looking for courage in one form or another to make those difficult decisions.
Exactly.
But yeah, now we can actually go into that big epic final. Well, not final, but epic
Fight
showdown.
scene. Yes.
Oh, what about the scene about Will and Riley and the relationship they have with the father? I thought that was really cute.
Oh, the one before.
You know, yeah.
And then when she's meeting with her father and her fellow musicians, and they're smoking pot, and she introduces them to
Exactly.
ecstasy.
I'm like, that's probably one of the coolest dad ever.
Yeah. It's not often you get a. Yeah, it's not often you get a. I'm sorry.
Who's talking?
I was gonna say was it's not often you have a parent and who's like who sees your child with serious drugs and who offers, and it's like, sure, what the hell, I'll take it.
Yeah. For some of us, it is 1985.
He's so cool.
Yeah, I liked him. I really liked him. Out of all the family that they had, he was definitely the Senseis have. He was my favorite of the bunch.
Makes me wonder if maybe we'll get a little bit of backstory on Lito's family next season, because we hardly get any from him as far as I can remember.
That's a very good point, Evan. Yeah, we see everyone's like, we see Carla's sons, Caffe's, but we get to see Lito's. Good point.
Yeah, the only time we ever saw anything related to his family really was, well, during the scene which we shall be discussing later.
Coming up later, yep. Stay tuned.
Yes.
But, yeah.
But that's very interesting if they're going to show Lito's family and the relationship in the past. That would be. That maybe they give his career and the most background around it. So
and also, like Martin said, exactly that. About how much of Lito do they know? Do they know he's gay? Have they accepted him? So exactly what Martin said. It'll be good to see how they what we find out about Lito's parents. But it was a very nice moment when Will's father accepted him as a cop as well.
Yeah.
When they were up in the boat. Yeah.
It's really interesting because Mexican families are very, very traditional. So this thing of being gay or having a son or even any member of their family to be gay, that's a big deal. In Mexico, I mean, I am closer to Mexico, to the culture and stuff. I am very aware of how difficult it is for someone to come out in Mexico. Maybe that's going to be the backstory of Lito and how he handled it with it.
Yeah,
so how, in effect, he had to become an actor from an early age to keep people from thinking he was that way.
Yeah.
And
good link. So we're gonna talk about the infamous birthing scene.
Well, we're getting to that. But, we could tell someone's excited, but
I'm not.
Let's actually break down the fight scene, the showdown between Lito and Joaquin. Finally.
I said, I'm sorry. You go first.
I was just gonna say, as tense as that moment is, that fight in itself seemed very comical. There was it was kind of like a light, if you can imagine, almost like a light-hearted fight scene in a way.
Yeah, I can see it.
That was Lito fighting, At the beginning, he was the fighting. That was Lito facing the situation and trying to get everything done a better way. That's what make it funny for me because Lito really has the funny. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's like a big parody.
I'm sorry, you were first.
No, no, it's a big parody of Mexican telenovelas. I
Hmm.
think the whole Lito story.
Yeah, that's what I was actually thinking. Something that Martin said, like in the first part of the fight, because I'd seen a couple telenovelas here in the past, and the fight scenes that they showed it reminded me of the fight scenes from that, with it being at least in the comical sense, like with them they're throwing the flower pots and everything like that. But then once Joaquin goes on the offensive, it takes a more serious tone, I guess would be the right thing to say, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
when Wolfgang comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah, he goes, we're not done yet.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, he helps Lido first, and then he goes, we're not done. And I'm like, yay.
But still, my favorite part was when he comes out with. Well, first it's the not the face, not the face. And then he comes out with the flower pots. He's like, and then Joaquin, then Joaquin's like, "You gonna give me flowers, pussy?" And I was just like, I just had to
Thanks,
laugh.
Evan, for that. Yep. That was
That was.
awesome. He falls into the bushes, right? And then when he jumps up,
yeah.
he's holding flower pots, and I'm like going, oh my god.
He's thrown by the bushes.
That was an epic moment, and it also really shows his character once again, like going, this guy really doesn't know how to fight. Like he just, he's a very good actor, really. Yeah, he comes out all tough, like I'm gonna take you down, and I'm like going, yay, go later, But deep down, I knew it was just gonna be funny ass because we all kind of knew that he couldn't fight, and we showed using flower pots as weapons. Really?
If you can make him hit, maybe, but he completely missed the target.
It could be effective. If we can make them hit, it could be effective.
Did he hit Joaquin though with the flower pot?
I think he hit him once.
He missed both, as far as I remember.
Oh, there you go. No sense of aim as well.
Yeah. And then, of course, it's an interesting contrast between that, because by the time Wolfie takes over, he's calm, he's doing his stretches and like doing all this like pre-fighting things, and he's just like so easy with it. And that
it doesn't flinch, yeah. When Joaquin throws the first punch, Wolfgang doesn't flinch.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
They are very smooth.
Very smooth. Because he's probably been in that situation a lot of times. Not exactly that situation, but he's been in a. So he knows what to do, and he does it. Knocks him flat on his ass, if I remember right.
And then I love that scene too, where it's like they do that uppercut sequence where it switches back and forth between. Yeah, that was really well done. I was like, whoa.
It was just freaking brilliant, the whole thing, and I definitely agree with Jordan. Definitely a unique situation, and I'm sure in Berlin they don't throw flower pots around. So I don't know if Wolfgang would have seen this whole thing unfold and go, this guy really needs my help, or I don't know how it works. Like,
just shaking his head
on the side. Yeah. I don't know like how it worked out. Like, sometimes I wonder, like.
Well,
is this Sense8 already there?
Well, I think it just.
Or because Wolfgang's face flower pot.
I think this is just maybe Wolfgang thought he owed Lido for helping him in Berlin, so maybe he was and I just a guess, maybe he was like keeping an eye on him, and when he kind of sort of knew the situation he was in, that's when he stepped in to repay the favor.
But I also think they have that natural sense of when one of them is in any kind of danger as well. Because you think about it, when Steiner had the gun to Wolfie's head, Leto was just like chilling in the back, just kind of watching it all happen. First of all, like he didn't really realize what was gonna do or what he was gonna do, but he knew instinctively there was like that pull of okay, we need you now or whatever, and all those things about sunlight.
By instinct, maybe they with this cluster they also feel what the other ones are feeling. So that's what. All right, someone is in danger because they're feeling scared or they're feeling angry or they whatever. That's how they know, I guess.
Yeah. So I was just wondering, was he there for the flower pot scenes, or did he come in when Hernando was actually on the floor? I mean, sorry, Leto was actually on the floor.
I think it was right about then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can do so many spoof videos with all this, actually, if you really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that leads us to the finale sequence.
Well, bye. Okay. Should we get right to
here we
it?
go.
All right.
Dive right in.
All right. Like the orgy scene, I'll go first into the fray. No jokes for that. I know how I was.
Shut up, Jordan. I'll shut up.
I remember how you and Tony, everyone, when I started. But actually, okay. In all seriousness, in this scene was the only one I think of the entire season that really, I don't know, disturbed me, for lack of a better word. No offense to the mothers or mothers-to-be who may be watching this now. Miracle
to all
birth.
females out there.
Yeah, miracle birth. I mean, no offense. But it's like I was watching the scene and you see the flashback to Riley's mother giving birth, and I was like, they're because I remember what Jonas and Will were talking about.
Exactly.
They're flashing back to the birth, and holy
yeah,
and there's stuff and. I was like,
okay, come on, Jordan, you can do this.
Yeah, so like there's a list of certain things that
one scene cannot be unseen.
Again, no offense meant that there are certain things that I do not wish to see in my lifetime, and
see it 8 times.
Seeing
times 8,
their birthing scene was on the list. And now that's been crossed off. But I remember there was something, I think it was J. Michael Straczynski who said a little bit later about that actual scene, was how the births themselves, as we saw in the scenes, reflected on each of them now.
Which it did, yeah.
So, like I said, at times it got
Jordan's like, I know where it came from now.
I'm sorry, it was like, there were times when it was like, I was watching, I was like, oh dear God. and then there was this scene with Leto where his mother's giving birth on a kitchen table and the entire family is there. It's just watching the soccer game on TV, and that helped. So I was like, after seeing Will and Riley and Nomi and those parts, and then we see something so
shaking,
hilarious with Leto's family. It's like his mother's giving birth to him right on the table, and you're all focused on who's winning the game.
I thought it was a telenovela on there, was it?
It looked like
I think it was a TV show because
I thought it was a soccer game because it looked like they were cheering at some point.
Don't worry.
The way
I was gonna say that it was actually a telenovela. Yeah, you're right, because that's how I guess connection with Leto being an actor. I guess
And maybe because I thought when they cheered, I thought, oh, it was a sports game.
And then we have, because Riley is being born with her dad on the phone playing the piano, so there's that music connection, and then. What else? The
Wolfgang giving birth in water.
In water with his swimming and all that. Will in the police car,
Sun in the graveyard. Capheus in the hut with the Dula. I think that's the name of the woman, the type of one who does that. And then Kala was born next to the statue of Ganesha. And then Nomi was simply born. Mother was sedated via C-section.
Yeah. which then emphasized the kind of clinical approach that her mother takes with everything, you know. So that definitely tied it into it.
And the Beethoven Symphony was like perfect. So beautiful.
A son being born in a graveyard. What the?
That I didn't really entirely
Well,
get.
I remember. I don't know if it. I think it may have been someone in the Facebook group who actually said something about it. Was like, with what happened to her mother, and what she asked son to do right before she died to look after her brother. It's like, and then again, this could be wrong, but it's like carrying the death of that parent with her now that she's an adult. Because you saw her struggle, like, before she went to jail, like, would she protect her brother by going to jail for his embezzlement? Because she did promise her mother right before her death that she would protect him.
Yeah.
So that weighed heavily on her, as we saw in previous episodes.
Yeah.
And also just from like a stylistic standpoint, it's that nice contrast of life being born in a graveyard. You know what I mean? That's just like
the
whoa.
life and death cycle.
Yeah.
Contrast.
What was that, Martin?
A great contrast. Now that it shocked me a little bit. It was a strong image.
Yes, it was. And then also here is after everyone has their turn with the birthing and all that, we get to see, again, we didn't know the full extent of it yet, but then we see Riley with her second birth as far as with her child, which ultimately leads her to pass out and all that. But what did you guys make of that the first time you saw it? Because we didn't have any backstory really for that extremely yet.
Well, the way I saw it, and I think I may have mentioned this before the first episode I was on, it was like I saw it in terms of computer terminology, of course. It was like she was receiving so much data into her, not just from her birth, but what the others were experiencing from remembering their own, and then combined the memory of what happened to her child and her husband. I mean, it was just too much. It overloaded her body and her brain, and that's why you saw her, all the blood streaming out of her nose. It was just too much for her system. The information she was receiving was too much for her system to contain and handle.
Yeah.
So that's why she just simply shut down.
Yep.
And that brought us to the end.
Exactly.
Exactly.
All right, Vindy, did you want to give a shout out for the voting?
Yes. Would you mind?
Jordan got something.
Okay.
Yes, Jordan, I think you should.
Yeah, so for those of you who are in the United States, but I think international people can vote for it, were you able to do it, Vindy?
But I'm assuming it is United States. Yeah, Jordan.
But were you able to vote?
I didn't test it out.
Okay, so here in the United States, there's this thing called the People's Choice Awards. It's like sort of a low version, not really low, but a low-rent version of the Emmys or the Golden Globes, where fans can go into a website and vote for their favorite TV actor, favorite comedic actress in the movie, so on and so forth. And right now they're in the nominating process where they have a list of shows or actors, and you pick the 5 you want to be the final nominees. And in the category for Best Streaming TV Show, they have Sense8. So for all of you who are watching and are in the United States, like I said, I don't know for sure if international people can get onto the website to vote, but if you can, go in, try to, and vote, of course, vote for Sense8. There may be a write-in thing with some of the other TV categories, so I can't say for sure because it's been a few days since I did it myself, to go in and see if you can try to get some of the actors like Brian J. Smith and Jamie Clayton, see if you can get them in. I don't know if it can be done, but if it can, try it out, see if it can work. And I don't know how long it lasts. I think it's till middle of November when voting ends, but do not quote me on that.
Yeah. So Evan, maybe you can attach a link to the YouTube video, maybe.
Yeah. Did you send it to me already? And then I'll link
I'll
that
send it to you now. Yep.
I'll put that in the description box. So, yeah, so for anyone who missed this broadcast, it'll be up on the YouTube video shortly. I want to thank my panel again for joining me this week. Awesome job as always, you guys. And yeah, stay tuned. Next week we're going to be going into episode 11, so we're almost actually all done with the episodes here. But until then, remember, you are no longer just you. Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.